Hiya friends, and welcome to your restorative posture of the week. Again, we're in that winter season, probably a little too busy and overscheduled for holidays potentially, etc. And so we're just trying to let that body have this hibernation, right? That turning inward. You can go back and look at some of the other videos if you're more interested in me talking about that. I want to get right into it. I have 2 blankets and I have a prop that's going to go underneath my thighs. Blankets, most of us can come by those easily. Beach towels are another good one. They've got a little bit, they're soft, and yet they're not so cushy that I just melt down into them, right, and end up tacoing in. And then underneath the legs, couch cushion, bed pillows, right, you name it. I mean, this could even be bed pillows. Be inventive when you're traveling or when you're at your house. You can usually find the things you need to do it. You just have to kind of be creative. So these 2, one goes under my head and my neck, one goes under my torso, one goes under my legs. So I'm going to call this the bottom blanket. I'm going to call this the top blanket. I'm going to call this the bolster. Whatever you have, you're correlating it to those words, right? I bring my buttocks approximately onto the bottom of the bottom blanket. My legs over the bolster, just so if I need to move them, I have access to it with either my hand grabbing down or my feet pushing it. Right? I start to lay down over. I like to bring my elbows down to lower into this one. And when I come down, I'm already a little off. I'm a little too high. I want to get my bottom tips of my shoulder blades onto that top of the bottom blanket. So I'm still talking about the bottom blanket, but on the top edge of it. I want to try and get those shoulder blades, walk down my back a little bit. They get caught by the blanket and they get gently lifted upwards, right? I'm going to bring that top blanket in. Personally, I have a reverse cervical curve. And so for me, it's very comforting and helpful for me to have a little roll in the blanket so that the blanket comes up to my neck and my back of my head comes down onto it. I'm demonstrating. You can always watch this once and then start to move into it, right? I'm going to move that kick with my heels, that bolster setup underneath my thighs, and then hopefully I can lay out over this without there being any inflammation, irritation, compression, any of those things that might happen in the low back. Now, if your low back is sensitive and it's better for you to leave the feet on the ground, knees leaning in, feet wide, knees leaning in, awesome sauce. One more big thing here, position-wise, and then we'll be ready to settle in. Arms, maybe they tee out. I'm right in between those 2 blankets, so I have this capacity to bring my shoulders, almost like a bridge, right? My upper shoulders come down to the ground, even as my chest gets a little lift. If it's better for your shoulder girdle for any reason and more comfortable to go into goalpost arms, please take goalpost arms, okay? So you can play with them, do both of them, find the one that feels the best in your body. You may, if you feel like your low back is overarching, lift your hips and reach your buttocks forward, rolling back down, and then find a position for your legs, yeah? And again, you can play with both of the positions I put on the table and work with the one that feels the best in your body right now. So hopefully you're physically, quote, in, right? And if you need to make little adjustments, you do, especially with restorative. Take the time, really adjust until you find that sweet spot. If you're like, I would prefer the bolster to be a little lower and not quite so high up by my buttocks, move it down a little bit and try it under the thighs, the lower thighs or the knees, or right? So play. Close the eyes when you get all settled in. And then let's begin our body scan. Releasing the crown of the head, the eyebrows, the muscles of the eyes. Soften the jaw. And let that softness even come to the inside of the mouth, not just the jaw, but the upper palate, the tongue, the teeth, the gums, as if all of them could soften. The tongue attaches in the throat, so let that tongue attach to the throat. Let the throat soften, the neck soften. And from the back side of the neck, towards the bottom of the neck where those upper traps kind of start to get involved, soften the upper traps all the way across the back side of the shoulders into the upper back. Soften across the tops of the shoulders, and then soften the shoulders themselves. Soften the upper arms, the elbows, the lower arms. Soften the wrists, the hands, and the fingers. Bring your softness into the chest and the upper back. Soften through your torso, right, middle rib cage area. Let that softness come down into the belly and the low back. The hips. And then soften your upper legs, knees, the lower legs. Softening all the way down to the ankles, the feet, and the toes. Bring your awareness into your breath. Don't change it, just notice it. Maybe just by nature of you showing up on your mat, your body knows, oh, it's time for me to move into that rest and digest system. Maybe using props helps your body feel supported. Right, so just check in. If those things are happening, chances are the breath is already fairly smooth. But I think we as teachers, and I've had my moments of it for sure, do a disservice by constantly talking about the soft belly breath, the deep, deep breath. It is a beautiful breath. It is the foundation for so many breaths. And it really sets you up for success with breathing. But when your body is at its calmest and you're moving more towards those theta brainwaves, you begin to breathe a little less. And what often happens is after your exhale, you'll have a very long pause before you need to draw on the inhale. You can't make that happen. You can't try to do it. It'll just happen when you're in your most relaxed state. So you don't necessarily have to change that and start to breathe really deeply if that's where you tend to go, or where you start to go, or you find it for the first time, right? Don't let it scare you, A. And B, just observe it, allow it, without trying to make it happen or change it. Let's try to be here for about 1 more minute. Breath-wise, that's anywhere from 5 to 10 breaths, depending on your breath. Coming out of this so slow. Really try to bring any relaxation you might have just created with you. So as you listen to the breath, it might begin to deepen just naturally. And as you listen to the body may request a movement or two, right? Whatever feels good to you in your body, do that one. You can put your feet up on the bolster if you're working with a bolster. You could do this without the bolster. It's just nice to have those legs slightly lifted. But, depending on where you are, you'll roll over to either side. Gently push the floor away when you're ready and come on up. And feel free, you've got all of these props around you, right? So you might build yourself a little height here to sit on. Normally I would sit much higher in my own personal practice, always having the knees below the hips. But rather than pull this other one over, I'm just going to come onto this one and sit up nice and tall. Notice if anything has shifted since the beginning of this video, right? Before you came to the video. Hands together in front of the heart, inhale. Exhale, bowing the head in and just maybe being grateful to yourself for showing up. It's a pretty powerful thing to do for yourself. Namaste, friends. Especially with restorative meditation, those poses where we're actually asking ourselves for stillness and to rest, it's pretty against how we are in society and how society asks us to be. So I think these are the harder practices to come to and to start to give ourselves. So, well done. I love you. Have a great week.